Gsap is a library that allows you to animate whatever you want on the web. As you can see from the homepage right here, it says that you can change whatever JS can touch. That's basically the entire DOM, right? If we keep scrolling, you will see all this horizontal scroller, these animations that appear as you scroll. Then it goes back to vertical scrolling, and you see that all of this is changing as I scroll, and this is a lot of things that you can do with Gsap. I plan on making a series on this library, and without further ado, let's get started with the basics. When I started with Gsap, this is a website that I made. As you can see, we have this animation on the hero section, then we have these images that come in as you scroll. As you can see, the section is also tied to the scroll, so you're not going to go to the section that's below this one. The concept is a fictional book, as you can see here, and you can see this text is going to appear. This section is also tied to the scroll, and then we have this text that's going to zoom in, and then you will see this thing right here. We'll actually get to do this animation right here on this video, so let's get started. Let's take a look at the HTML that we have here. As you can see, we have a box. I also have the CDN here. We're on version 3.12.4. I included my JavaScript file. Let's go to the CSS. You will see that we have the resets. We have a section that's going to take the entire screen and it's going to place its content in the center. And then we have a box that is always going to be a square due to this ratio, and it's also right. So it actually looks like this. So let's actually do something with this box with the help of Gsap. So we have this div with a class of box. So we actually have to target this class with a DOM. So I'm going to create a variable, a constant named box, and I'm going to select the element by that class, which is going to be selector, and I'm going to target the box right here. And now, as you remember from the keyframes that I talked in the previous video, we have the methods both to and from. Let's actually start by using to, because it's way simpler to understand. Let's say Gsap, then you open the gsap.to, excuse me, then you have box, and then you open the object. And here is where you actually tell the element how to behave. So for example, let's say I want this to move 400 pixels to the right. I can just do this, and if we come here, you will see it's actually going to move, as you saw right there. It's happening too quickly, and that's why it actually looks as if it's just going to appear here. But we can use something like repeat -1, and you will see that this is actually going to happen lots of times, right? The issue before was that it's happening way too quickly. So let's actually get rid of this thing. If you want, for example, just the element to appear in some place, let's say here, you can use the property gsap.set, the method set. And this is just basically going to change the current state, the values that the element has right now for the ones that you have here. For example, let's say I want to rotate this element by let's say rotate X, I believe it's going to work. Let's say 45 degrees. And it's actually going to change this element, as you see here. I'm not totally sure if that's actually changing. Okay, it's actually going to rotate in the x-axis, so I have to do it in the y, I believe, or in the z-axis. And there is, let's say 45, and we will have this shape right here. But it's not going to animate it. It's just going to change it. It's just going to set the property on this value. If you actually want to make this move, you have to do something like this. And once again, as you saw, now it's going to rotate. Repeat, let's say -1, so we get rid of that thing, and you can see this is going to rotate. You can also change this as well, let's say 180. I put an S there, and it's very simple, as you can see. You can also add this property yo-yo true, and it's actually going to behave like a yo-yo, so it's going to come back and forth, as you can see here. You can also change the easing. Let's say is we have this value. These values come from the documentation, And you will see now it's going to change how this is actually going to play. Let's say power 4 is also going to change it. See? It's very, very cool. So let's take a look at from. I no longer want the yo-yo, and I no longer want the async. And I'm just going to change the method from2 to from. And I want you to think what's going to happen here, which is very simple if you watch the video, the previous one that I made. This is just basically going to, instead of coming from the center to the right, it's going to come from the right to the center, because we are telling it to go from these values to the values that it currently is seeing, which are basically this one right here. So if you remember, there was a reason why I do not like to use from that much. It works sometimes, but personally I don't like it that much, and I'm going to explain you why. So I said we only have from and to animate. You also have to take into consideration the current state of the CSS of the element that you're trying to change. So let's set an example where we're trying to actually move the box, which is basically, let's say this is our screen. This is going to be a screen. The box is in the center. And we actually wanted to go something like this. So right here and here. So this is going to be our from. This is going to be our CSS. And this is going to be R2. And when you want to go from a place to the CSS and then from the CSS to a place, then that's a good case to use from. So I'm actually going to show you how we can do this with code. So let's start by moving our box up right here in the CSS. As you can see here, we have to move this box to this place. So we're going to change this from the CSS. We're going to use transform translate y, and let's say -15 rem. And now the box is up. And now let's use from gsap.from. We're going to use the box. And here we set the properties. I don't know why that's happening. And this is going to move from the left, so -400. As you can see from the animation here, this should be here, and then it should go up. So we have to add some rems in the y-axis. So this is going to be translate y, and this is going to be 15 rem. So we actually counter this property right here, and then we can actually give this some duration, 2 seconds, and this should be working. So we can go from this place to this place. Very simple. And now make this go from the CSS to this current place. So we can actually use gsap.to. Let's select the box once again. And this is going to move 400 pixels to the right. So we are just going to use 400. And we also have to make this go down. So we're also going to use 15 rem. And let's give this a delay of 2 seconds, so we actually give the from some time to finish, and a duration of 2 as well. And now it's working. As you can see, now we have the entire sequence right now. So how can we actually fix this issue right now? That is actually, the box is showing there for a split of a second. There are a lot of ways to do this, but my favorite way is to basically just, instead of the from here, we're actually going to set these values on the CSS, and it's actually going to change instead from to CSS, and from the CSS to. It's actually going to be CSS to another place to another place. So we have to actually change this on the selector that we have here. So it should be 15 rem instead of -15 rem, and it's also going to should be translate x. It should be 400 pixels, and we're going to hide this, and you will see we're still on 3G. So I'm going to disable this for just a second. And now you will see that it's just going to move from the left to the right, because we haven't set the properties to go up in this case. So we have to actually change this, and we're not going to comment. I mean, it was fine. We're going to uncomment this, And instead of saying from, we're going to say to. So now I want this to go 400 pixels to the right, and then I want this to go up, so I have to subtract, and then I'm going to set the time right here. And now this should be working just fine. It's not the exact same. Let me check why. So this is translate y. So this is basically going to appear, this is going to make it show right here. So it should go 400 pixels to the right and 15 pixels up. Let's see what's going on. Is it working or am I crazy? Okay, so it's going to be go from 400 to 400. Let's say translate pix 400. I think this should be 0. I'm not exactly sure. No. Let me see. Let me try with 0. Okay, so that was it. We have to set this to 0 because this is basically the position itself. It's not a translate as I'm doing here, but it's also going to work. So as you can see, and now if we actually come here and we go back to this, you will see that if I change this to 3G, that thing is not going to happen because the CSS is going to set the position of this box here when the page loads. And now the box doesn't have that problem, that flash of unstyled content problem. If I'm going to refresh this once again, you will see that now this is working and we don't have that annoying problem right here. Before I close this video, I wanted to say as well that that problem happens as well with set. So for example, if I set gsap.set the box and I want to scale its size by 2, scale 2, and we're actually on a slow connection on 3G, you will see that for a split second it's going to be small. So you have to take that into account when you actually use GreenSock in this case. So basically, a very simple way to put this, when it's going to happen flash of unstyled content, is basically when you are doing something before the page loads. So it's better to set the initial state in the CSS instead of with JS. Thank you, and I'm going to see you on the next one where we're actually going to create this animation right here that I mentioned at the start.